Apache Cassandra 4.1 has many great new features. One of them is Guardrails. Guardrails allows someone who is a DBA or a DevOps specialist to set certain limitations on what can be run from the development side. Guardrails essentially allows database administrators and DevOps specialists to have the freedom and have the configurability to disable or enable specific features, to disallow specific values, and even to enforce limits to certain settings. Here you can see that I am looking at my Cassandra YAML file. So what we'll need to do is verify the settings for, here we go, the allow filtering enabled setting. This is the guardrail that allows you to turn this on and off. Right now, I have this set to false. You can see that I have settings for partition keys in select, warning and failure threshold set to 5 and 10, respectively. This way, an in clause with too many entries should throw either a warning or a failure. Also remember that changing these settings will require a restart on each and every node in the cluster. So now that we have our cluster properly configured, let's take a look at our settings virtual table to verify that those settings have been properly configured. So I'll go ahead and query from systemviews.settings where name equals allow filtering enabled. You can see allow filtering enabled currently has a value of false. Now let's check for partition keys and select both warning and failure thresholds. As you can see, the partition keys and select warn threshold will throw a warning if there are more than 5 items inside an in clause. Whereas the failure threshold will throw a failure and not allow the query to complete if there are more than 10 items in an in clause. Now I will exit out and log back in as a non-super user. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to use allow filtering. As you can see, an error has been thrown when I try to use allow filtering. It is basically saying that allow filtering is not allowed. Something else I can try. So here's a list of the movies in this table. Let's say that I wanted to pull them back by ID. Now, as you can see, ID is defined as the partitioning key. So let's say that we wanted to pull a bunch of them back all at once. I'll say where ID in, and we'll say 33, 72, 769, 1863, 23, 114. That query works, but I get a warning saying the guardrail partition keys in select violated. The number of partition keys 6 exceeds warning threshold of 5. So they'll get a warning every time they do this when they're over a certain amount. So what if I add a few more to that? Let's just add some more entries on the end, even though I know they don't exist. So let's go 5, 6, 7. Let's try that. Well, this way it flat out rejects it. Guardrail partition keys in select violated. Partition keys 13 exceeds fail threshold of 10. So in this way, you can see that the guardrails are preventing expensive queries that violate known anti-patterns from being run on this cluster. Remember that guardrails only affect non-super users. Super users will not have guardrails imposed on them, so make sure that your applications are using appropriately spec'd permissions. Be sure to check out the Guardrails feature in Apache Cassandra 4.1 to see how it can help improve your clusters.